Hello everybody, welcome to episode 2 of AI's training. Today we're going to be going through an upper body session that I did a few days ago. The first day back to bench pressing after 3 months of weighted dips and incline bench primarily, and weighted push-ups as well. 175 is on the bar. I'm doing 2 count pauses. They might seem a little fast, but I programmed 2 count with the fact in mind that when you're benching, time seems to go faster. So when I put 2 count, it's really more like I'm doing a more strict 1 count. Similar things apply in other aspects of my training. Later in the week, I have Swiss bar bench where I use 3 count. That really ends up being more of a 1.5 or a 2 count if you were to be very strict about counting it. I wasn't super happy about the bar speed, but I was fine knowing that my actual bar path was fine, and knowing that this is the first day back to the bench press after all that time means I definitely have room for neurological adaptation to help drive further growth on this particular lift. Next up is something I've kind of been ignoring in my training for a long time, which is proper upper back emphasis, not just lat emphasis. And the lift I'm using for this is a wide grip bent over row, which is a lift I have a lot to say about in general, but I find that these feel excellent on the upper back. I get a huge squeeze on my rear delts, my rhomboids. I get a little bit of lat involvement. And these are being superset with these dip bar leg raises, which I find are absolutely tremendous for the abs. Some people might say that supersetting a compound lift that's kind of heavy, like the bent over row and ab work, is ill-advised, but I would actually disagree in this case because the bent over rows are being done in a rep range, which is higher. It's 8 to 13. There are reasons why the odd number, but that's besides the point. I just find that it really works the whole core really well, and it allows me to get a pretty good stimulus for the abs without it taking up other time in the training. One thing I noted about these wide grip rows is that the lower back actually got a lot of fatigue, not the day of, but the next day. I felt like a really nice soreness. They felt very well worked. My upper back also felt very well worked. I didn't get any sort of arm involvement in these, so I think doing these very strict 25s rows is going to be something that will stay in my program as long as I'm trying to put more emphasis on the upper back. The second press of the day is an incline bench with straight sets. Just a low incline is plenty for these. I'm focusing more on driving up the rep count, just doing a simple double progression now. I got a really nice upper chest pump from these, nice upper chest soreness the very next day. They're a little harder on the lockout, they're a little harder on the delts, but they make for pretty easy volume, which also just generally works the whole chest. It's great stuff. These are being superset with dumbbell upright rows, a lift I actually like a lot, but I don't like quite as much as a barbell upright row. I'm kind of just including them for the sake of variety. I think I went just a smidge too heavy on these, and I didn't get a great camera angle, as you can see. But overall, the reps were moving well, and I got a nice stimulus for the delts. They definitely felt well worked the next day. The last thing on the training session is actually arms. It's dumbbell curls and Swiss bar incline extensions. The dumbbell curls themselves, I am showing you here the second set. I got 8 reps and one kind of cheaty rep where I leaned back a little more, so I didn't count that one. These, as usual, feel tremendous on the biceps. I focus a little on external rotation and keeping super active supination throughout the whole range of motion. An excellent lift, hard to go wrong with, just wonderful. And there you can see the last kind of cheaty rep. The Swiss bar extensions, I really should have had the safeties behind me, but these felt quite good as well. You can see it's just a slightly higher incline than the incline bench. The neutral grip allows it to feel really good on the wrists and not challenge the forearms as much, though the neutral grip, while being bilateral, kind of does add to the instability. You can see like there's a little bit of wobble sometimes as I get used to loading this movement more heavily for the first time. But the long head stimulus is crazy. Even as I record the audio for this video, A couple days later, I can feel my long head very, very sore. For the second set of curls, or rather, this is the third set, I was a little more strict, trying to focus on pure elbow flexion, not leaning back so much, trying to keep forward best I can, and controlling the eccentric really nicely. And I am super satisfied, even though I haven't been putting on reps as fast. I've still been seeing arm growth from these, and that's really what matters, isn't it? And then here we have the third set of the Swiss crushers. Again, tremendous. Highly recommend if you want to try something like that for the long head. But this is the end of the session. After this, I simply went and ate and rested and did some schoolwork. That's all I have for now. Take care, train hard, and have a great day.